Hello, hello. It is Justin Colletti of SonicScoop, and today I'm here with a guest, one Niko Bolas, who is an engineer, mixer, producer, has been at this for many decades. He's been working with big names for longer than some of you folks have been alive. He's worked, I'd say, prolifically with Neil Young, so many records with Neil Young. He's worked with Bonnie Raitt, Fiona Apple, Sheryl Crow, Blues Traveler, who he actually just did in his masterclass. He took us under the hood of a Blues Traveler track. If I'm going to continue to list names, Prince, so many, I will just be spending the entire call listing names. I don't want to do that. I want to say hi to Niko. Niko Bolas, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Justin. How are you?
Not too bad. Better now that Niko Bolas is here, and better now that you've done a MixCon Masterclass. For those of you guys who have not checked it out, you've got to go over to the SonicScoop YouTube channel. He gives us I want to say, one of like the most personal and in a way philosophical MixCon Masterclasses. And I really think you encourage people in your masterclass to really trust themselves and really learn to get in there, do the work again and again, and start to develop trust in your tastes. Today, we're going to go deep into a bunch of questions with you from the audience. And I want to start it off with a question of my own. All of our MixCon Masterclasses are free to the public thanks to our sponsors. The sponsor on this one, Natural Fit, it's Cali Audio. They help pay for the production of the video and the editing and the shooting and all that stuff. And you're right now in a room that's got a whole bunch of Cali speakers in it. This is a room I think you helped build.
Studio F, which I got to help lay out. And I brought Cali's in here. I love Cali speakers, and they don't pay me any money. It's the truth.
Sweet.
I really do love
this is a true story. I was trying to grease Niko's palm with silver, and he wouldn't let me. He threw it back in my face. Said, "No, get out of here." So, Niko, let's just start with this question real quick, just to say thanks to those guys for sending in the video team and the editors and all that. What made you choose the Cali Audio speakers? What do you like about them, and what made them a good choice both for that studio that you're in now that you helped build, as well as your own studio?
Well, I was building a Spatial room in Ventura, and Kerry Thomas, who at the time was with Dolby, then he went to Apple, and now he's independent. But we were talking about speakers, and I've always used ATCs, and I was trying to find ATC 20s, which I use, and they're impossible to find. And he said, "Man, you should try Cali speakers." And I said, "Sure." So I went to Burbank and I met Charles, who designed these, and I listened to them, and they were great. So I got a set of, I think they're IN8s, and I brought them to my studio, and I set them up next to my ATCs, and I would play something through the ATC, and then I would switch it over to the Cali, and I didn't want to change anything in the mix. It had exactly the same top end, bottom end, mid range, etc. It just was the same. I made all the same choices, and it was affordable, and they were powerful. They sound great loud, which is important to me. So I did my whole room in them. And then when I came down to the village, they wanted some advice building an Atmos room here. And I said, cut to the chase, just go buy the Calis and trust me. So they did. And so now I work here too. They're really, really good speakers. I love them. I have a little set. I don't know what the numbers or models are, but I bought a tiny set that I put on Neil Young's boat so he can play mixes in his wheelhouse and listen. And then I have the 8s and 5s for the ceiling. We got them all over. They're good. They're good speakers. I like them.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Yeah, the little ones are probably their UNF series, and I totally agree with you on the INs. I mean, those have to be dramatically less expensive than the ATCs, but I think they're one of the biggest steals in pro audio. I have a pair of their IN8s here in the studio, not as my main pair, but I have a secondary pair of IN8s, and man, you could make choices on those speakers for like a third the cost of a pair of ATCs that will translate everywhere. So yeah, big shout out to those guys.
The only place you'll hear a difference is depth. It's just and that's just, I don't know where in the manufacturing there's a difference. But I've never changed a mix going from the Calis back to an ATC to check it, not once. And I've been using them I got them in 2014. I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to ask you some questions about music production, mixing, audio engineering, and life. And we take a whole bunch of questions from the audience. We save some of the best questions that came in through the live premiere, and type questions in the chat box if you have any. But I got to ask, I'm a big Neil Young fan for ages, and I'm just curious how you got to start working with Neil and how he chose you to work on so many records again and again. You're a guy who wears ties to the studio every day. How does a guy like Neil Young end up working in the studio with a guy who wears a tie to the studio every day? Why does this relationship work between you and him?
Fuck if I know. I didn't wear ties when I first met him. I first met Neil in 83, I think, 84. He was on Geffen. He wanted to do a record with Danny Korchmar, and Cooch hired me and Steve Jordan to do the record. And I've worked with him ever since, off and on. I've quit once, been fired 3 times. We're good friends.
Right.
I started wearing ties in 2010 because I made a bet with Al Schmidt, which is, I've told the story a million times, but I have yet to lose the bet. I always wear a tie when I'm in a studio. And now people give them to me. This is from Jason Mariani up at Carbonite Sound. He gave me his entire collection of Beatles ties.
All right. Very cool.
Occasionally I have to buy a new shirt.
All right. First question here that came in during the masterclass for Niko from Sean O'Leary. He asks, for Niko, has he dabbled with any de-mixing software? And does he have any interest in it? If so, why has he tested and does he have any recommendations? I imagine what Sean means by de-mixing software is maybe like stem separation tools. Have you ever messed around with any of those tools that kind of separate the vocal from the instrumental or anything like that? And do you see a use for them in the way that you work?
No and no. Hi, Sean. Today I'm mixing for an artist named LP, and they sent me stems, and I respectfully asked for the original sessions, which came on Logic, and then John Tan, my partner here, took it from Logic, and we put it into a Pro Tools session. I always hear that stuff. I don't like it. I'm very impressed with the mastering software. Richard Dodd uses, the hell's it called? Nectar. They make Isotope, I think.
Yeah. Isotope Ozone does have a stem separation feature where you can kind of maybe
we
goose up
never
the vocals.
use that, but there's times when he'll notch it if he thinks I have too much lead vocal in a mix.
Yeah,
he'll notch it back and see if I like it. But I don't use it, and I've tried them a couple of times when I had to do Atmos for a client, and they had lost the multi-tracks.
Right.
But I didn't have any success with them. I hate the way they sound. They're terrible. There's artifacts, and they don't really work, and it's bullshit. And going the other way is even bigger bullshit when people take a stereo mix and it goes into something that breaks it out so that they can make it an Atmos mix. That's jive. Get off your ass and really mix.
Right. That's just about sending different frequencies to different speakers rather than making decisions about.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. You may as well go get a ghetto blaster from the 80s and hit the wide button, throw it out of phase, and smoke a joint. Wow, it's wide. That's bullshit.
I gotcha. Yeah, the Ozone tool you're probably thinking about from Isotope is their master rebalance. And I have used that subtly in mastery for exactly the same thing you're talking about, literally just goosing up vocals or drums or bass by a hair. And when you use it subtly, it can,
it works.
Be passable.
But, it blew my mind. I was very impressed. But the times that I've tried it in a mixing application, I hated it.
Fair enough. Now, question for you around Atmos before we get back into the audience questions. When you do a mix that you're trying to do in surround, do you have a particular philosophy about the way the mix should present? Are you one of the kinds of guys who think artists should be in front of us and ambient should be behind? Is it being in the center of a band with instruments all around you? Are you big into special effects or just a bit of space? What are your thoughts about how these height and width and back channels should be used in a surround mix?
I don't have any thoughts. To be honest with you, like this mix I'm doing now, what I will do is I'll take the rough from the producer, and I'll just close my eyes and play it, and then do the first things I think of. The song will dictate what you do. Some songs, when you listen to them, are a piece of music and arrangement. It's very percussive, so you can let the rhythm section sit further back and maybe bring more intimate things up close. But you have to be very careful, and you have to always double check your binaural interpretation of what you're doing, because the two worlds have to coexist, and they don't work automatically. So you have to know where your end is going to be, because ultimately, no matter how great I get it in here or in a 914 room, that's really cool, and we have that, and it's fun, but nobody's got that unless they've got a new Mercedes.
Right.
And most of the people I know are going to hear my mix out of their phone. And so I want to know that how does it down mix, and that it is down mixing correctly. And the only fundamentals that really matter is the vocal against the backbeat against the groove.
Right.
So just always double check, however you decide to do your spatial mix, just, do what you feel in the moment. Don't second guess it. Just do it and then listen to it. And if you're wrong, you'll be the first person to know. I fire myself all the time. I think this sucks, tear it down, do it again. Takes less time to do that than it does to talk about what you think this is supposed to be. That's bullshit. Just turn it up. If it feels good, you were right.
Speaking of tearing it down, an interesting thing that came up in your masterclass, if I remember this correctly, was that when you start a mix, you like to not start with their rough mix and tweak from there, but rather bring everything to zero and then bring the faders kind of back up. Did I hear that right, where you kind of turn everything off and bring them in one by one? Can you tell me a little bit about how you discover that way of working?
That's the way I grew up. People would bring you a record to remix it because they didn't like what they had. And so they want a fresh interpretation. So if they're paying me to remix it, what I think, then I'm going to listen to their rough, but I'm going to listen to it to see what's important to them, what the fundamentals are, what's the melody, and get an idea of the arrangement. But if they're bringing it to me because they love what they have, but they want it louder or better, then I'm a glorified assistant engineer, and I certainly can't justify charging them to do that. Anybody can put an L1 on somebody else's rough and have it sound better, because it's louder, or it's a little bit more compressed, or things are more apparent. That's, or if you own every plugin and you open a session, and then all you do is just make sure that everything's not clipping and send it back to them, you haven't mixed, you just cleaned it. And that's just a really good assistant engineer. A mixer is someone who gives you a piece of themselves and an interpretation and gives it back. Now, if it's wrong and you don't dig what I did, that's cool. And if you want to call me up and say, I don't like it, I want this, go back and do this, then that's fine. Then I'll do as much as I can under your production, but produce me. Don't just, have me improve something you already have. You can do that yourself. You don't need my name on it to make it worthy of anything. And anybody that does that, I don't dig it. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a split philosophies about this. I really like your approach. It's something I often recommend to people, to just bring everything down and then bring the elements in the order of importance that you think is essential to the arrangement, which is something you really said in your masterclass. You like to bring in the vocal, you like to bring in the backbeat, and then you like to bring in the foundation under that. And I think that's great. And whenever you're bringing them in the order of what you think is most important in the track, it's just much less likely that the most essential elements get crowded out. And I think it's a great way to work. But that said, there's a bunch of big mixers these days who want the session from the production, and they just want to tweak it, and they own every plugin. And I think sometimes they're afraid that they're going to get into endless revision territory if they give something that's too different to the original mix. So that's a question I have for you there is, do you ever do this process and people say, no, we really just like what we had. Can you do that, but slightly more better? And then in those situations, do you bow out of those projects, or do you, begrudgingly go, okay, I don't know why you hired me, but I'm going to do that?
I don't do that. I haven't been, I've only had that come up a couple of times when I've been mixing singles. And generally, I will suggest to them with all respect, who's the guy or the woman that mixed what you sent me? Have them finish it. They're
Mm,
really brilliant. And I
mm,
agree with you. I mean, I loved what you sent me, or I wouldn't want to work on your music.
right.
I have a different feel on your music, and I
Hmm.
don't want to just come in and improve on somebody else's hard work. If
Mm,
somebody else brought it to a certain place, acknowledge it and tell them, hey, finish it. We're going to leave the room for a while. Come back.
right.
And it'll probably be great. Um, maybe I'm not famous enough to just put my name on it and say it's better because I touched it. I mean, there's a lot of cats out there that can do that. I'm
Yeah,
not one of them, and I don't feel right doing that. There's nothing
right.
musical about that. That's just, punching a fucking clock. That's
Well, I
bullshit.
really like the idea that you had in your masterclass. You were talking about that idea of each person has their own feel. And when you bring down the faders and bring in the elements till it sounds good to you, then the mix
Mhm.
ends up sounding like your perspective on the mix. And that's how you get into a place where Glenn John's mix sounds like a Glenn John's mix and a Niko Bolas mix sounds like a Niko Bolas mix, is that they're
You
really
can never
taking it
sound
to a,
like Glenn.
yeah,
Glenn sounds
yeah,
like Glenn. Clear Mountain sounds like Clear Mountain. John Tan sounds like John Tan.
yeah,
Um, if there's something you love about the way somebody mixes, call them up.
yeah.
Call me, I'll give you their number. I know a lot of
Mm-hmm,
these cats. They're all just as in love with mixing as I am.
mm-hmm,
It's the fear of losing a gig or the endless revisions chasing after someone else's tail
mm-hmm.
that none of us want. Um, but out of respect for the music and the artist, I just have to be brutally honest. If what I'm doing is not what you want, or when you got here, I helped you discover that you already had what you want, then you know I love you. Go do that.
Cool stuff. Now, you actually mixed a project that I worked on, I think way back in 2010, or maybe it's 2009. It might have been even earlier. I recorded a record for the Josh Dion band. And back
Hmm.
then, you were on an analog console, and they were like, we got Niko, we're going to have him, finish these mixes, and he's going to run through his Neve console. This was back in 2009, 2010, before you'd gone all digital. And it was great. I liked the record before it went to you, and I liked the record after it went to you, and it definitely had a vibe.
Oh,
And you
thank
really,
goodness.
yes, you really understood, like you really have like this understanding of the style, like this roots rock kind of like Americana stuff that's supposed to feel like natural and free and like human. Like you very much resonate with that, and that's very much their style. So it very much worked. My question is, back then you were on an analog console, and that was one of the things that they liked, is that he's going to run through some analog gear and do all that. You have since gone all digital. Can you tell me about what were some of the hardest parts about switching to a digital system, and what were some of the things that made it easier for you?
um, well, it was easy because I finally got tired of being terrified, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did a mix. I did a static balance. I was doing this record, and I did a static balance where all the faders were 0, -10, whatever it is, with the tone of the instrument. And I did it through a Neve. I had in my control room, I had a Neve sidecar, an API 16 something, or the one with the 550As. I had a Dangerous 2 bus, and I had something else. I forget. Anyways, I did the last 15 seconds of the verse into 15 seconds of the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
And I printed all 5 versions. And then I went to Massenburg and I went to John McBride, Richard Dodd, mastering engineer, the songwriter, and of course me. And I just said, here's A, B, C, D. Tell me what you like. And everybody picked C and said, that's what you sound like on an API. And
Hmm.
C was all in the box. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I shit canned everything, because
All
it doesn't
right.
matter. It
Yeah.
just depends on, you turn up what your favorite stuff is, and don't treat it unless it needs to be treated. Let stuff
Mm-hmm.
live and balance it, really balance and really pay attention, and then you're done.
Mm-hmm. Fair
Throw
enough.
out all the habits.
Now, one of the things that people sometimes have trouble with when they're switching from a analog system to a digital one is they feel like maybe it doesn't have the same degree of saturation or color that their old analog system has. Are there any particular things that you do to try to get saturation or color happening in a digital mix, or is that not a concern?
Well, basically, I like to record the record if I'm going to mix it. And when I record, one of the biggest changes I made was I don't mic as close.
Mm-hmm.
When you have transformers in front of your console and transformers in a tape machine, especially the old Studers, you had a shock absorber for a slew rate, and so you could close mic things and it would slow it down. If you do that in digital, you have to turn the mic pre's down so that you don't get a clip into digital, which is a horrible sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then what winds up happening is that the body of the instrument is now really, really quiet. And so what I did as an experiment is I went out and I just put a fist between all the microphones and backed them up one fist, and then opened up my mic pre's, and everything sounded so much warmer. And that was the biggest change I made when I cut tracks. The only time I mic close is a bass amp, and that's because the distance from the driver to the microphone, if you're also using a bass direct, you'll get cancellation because that's an audible amount of time for a bass. Otherwise, I just don't mic as close as I used to, and things sound more natural. I prefer what's happening nowadays, not miking closely and letting instruments breathe. I came up in the in-your-face, LA sound in the 70s where everything was very isolated, and transformers were very much a part of that sound. But having said that, a transformer and tape compression and tape machines are all distortion or inefficient reproduction. And once you know that, then if you like it, you can recreate it. Or you can take advantage of, 96K sampling, 192 sampling, and you don't have to mic as close, and you can let things breathe. I mean, classical music is so much better without noise. You can hear quiet sniffles on the floor. You can hear what a conductor's really doing. Yeah, I really am very much into really using every piece of digital you can, and that means only using what you have to. Get a great microphone, get a great microphone preamp, and turn it into numbers and don't touch it. And that's probably a better sound than, everybody just habitually grabs 6 plugins because they saw it in a fucking video, and it's bullshit. You don't need all that shit. Your instrument sounded good, or you wouldn't have gotten it in the first place. You don't need that
how
stuff.
many of those 6 plugins and 6 plugin chains are us just second guessing the first choice that we made?
All of
and then
them.
We second guess the second choice that we made with the third plugin and second
All
guess
of them.
the fourth.
I know cats that just have the plugins on before they even start. And it just, like, okay, cool. If it gets you off, great. If that's the sound you wanted, cool. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough. Yeah. To what degree is it like a security blanket more than a sonic thing is a question we should ask ourselves and hopefully use our ears to answer.
Well, that's the other reason I pull all the faders down and get rid of all the plugins and panning and all of that shit, and then get produced. Have somebody say, when we brought it up, we were thinking that it should be kind of a blue with a fuchsia horizon. I don't know what that means, but I'll just keep shoving shit around until I get something close to what they were explaining, or I'm the wrong person. And, maybe I'm just set in my ways and I'm old and grumpy, and that's completely fine. And I'm sure half the staff here would agree with you, but I can't do that shit. It's bullshit.
Yeah, totally understood. Okay, next question for you, and this is an important one because one of the things you said in your masterclass was how important it is to take food breaks and to actually eat and not just drive yourself. And this is something that I've noticed. You've worked with a lot of big female artists. Bonnie Raitt, you did a whole bunch of records with. Linda Ronstadt. I think you also worked with Fiona Apple, Sheryl Crow, a whole bunch. And one of the things I've noticed about female artists, and I hope this is me being sexist, compared to male artists, is that female artists know when to take a break. Like they know, like, okay, I'm not going to give a good performance right now if I try to go for my 12th hour straight, or if I skip dinner or whatever. None of the women artists I've ever worked with have ever made that mistake, but almost all of the young men artists I've worked with have made that mistake where they always want to like be macho in the studio and say, I can do a 12-hour day. And it's like the whole last 4 hours were just wasted. We're not going to use any of that stuff. So I really like that you said you have to take food breaks. So this is a good setup for a question that our listener, Bernardo Reyes, has been here for every single MixCon Masterclass and every single MixCon Q&A, probably going back 3 or 4 years. We've been doing for 11 years, but he's been for a few years, all the masterclasses, and he asks everyone the same question. And he wants to ask you, Mr. Niko Bolas, a champion of eating in the studio. His question of all of our producers is, what, Niko Bolas, is your favorite sandwich?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Nice one. Okay.
Yeah. Has to be.
Easy. Done.
Super fast to make. They're pretty much consistent all across the world. When you get to England, peanut butter and jelly is kind of hard to get. They got weird food over there. But what do you put on bread over there? Butter. Yeah. They put butter and jelly on their bread over there. That's my favorite sandwich, peanut butter and jelly. Cool.
Very good. Hold on one sec. I'm just typing back to someone in the audience here. Okay, sweet. All right. Next thing is Benj writes in to say, Bernardo, I hope you're keeping a spreadsheet of these sandwiches. Actually, that'd be very useful. Bernardo, please make the list of all the favorite producers.
What's the most common? Bernardo,
sandwiches.
Type in, what's the most common sandwich reply you've gotten?
I don't know if there has been one. I actually think they've all been unique, with the exception of, I think peanut butter and jelly. Andrew Shep said that his was like a peanut butter and jelly in a wrap using a Chipotle peanut butter. So, but it's still unique and different than yours. Yeah. Yeah. So he has to take something classic, but to do a different spin on it. All right. Robert Sager writes in to ask, for students who are studying music, particularly if they have a concentration in studio production.
Kind of rap?
You know, he had a very specific rap. I'd have to go back and listen to his Q&A.
Andrew has a very specific everything. I want to know what his rap is. I got to know.
All right, I will have to get back to that, and I'll follow up via email. I will clip out that one section and send it directly to you. Okay. For students who are studying music concentration studio production, do you have any suggestions for co-ops/internships? I'm not sure if I know what a co-op is, but any suggestions for someone looking to get started with internships in who's a student right now in music production?
Well, music production is much different than getting an internship as an engineer. Music production, the first thing I would say is take any gig that shows up until it's not working for you. Because, you know, you could be running for sandwiches for months. And as long as that's still okay, because you're in the control room and you're around creativity and they're letting you hang and you're learning and you're meeting people, that's okay. If they're treating you like shit, split. And that happens a lot. And I can't stand it. But I am someone who I'm fortunate in that most of the people that I work with, when they start as an intern, they really want to be here. They really want to learn. And if somebody shows me initiative, then we certainly don't have the budgets to compensate for people's times, but we do have the ability to be good people and to teach or to share. And so I try to do that. And if you can get a gig with somebody that knows your name and will call you by your first name and not treat you like, you know, like you owe them something, which is a lot of internships. It makes me crazy when I see, you know, anyway, I don't need to get into it. I get very upset, but a lot of studios, big studios, especially here in LA, they treat their interns like crap. And, you know, after 2 months, get out of there. It's not healthy. And it's not going to make you better musically. It's just going to give you a big resentment or make you try to do something else with your life when in fact you should be doing music because it's what you love. So I would say yes to everything. And then after the first minute to the first year, whenever it feels like it's not making you better or helping you go forward, talk to them if you can talk to them. And if not, just split on good terms. Be polite. You don't have to say fuck you and walk out, but move on. Take care of yourself first.
Great advice. All right, we have more questions coming in. This one is specific to maybe a record that you worked on. It's definitely from the period in which you worked with Neil Young. Sean O'Leary says, Neil Young's album Freedom, I believe that's 1989, is one of my favorite albums. Can you recall anything about the recording of that album? I think you produced that album, didn't you? Do you have anything to say about Neil Young's Freedom album and why it might be Sean O'Leary's favorite, or what you think was cool about it, or what do you think you were going for with that record?
No. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I produced it. Freedom happened after the Blue Notes tour. And then he got together with, they called themselves the Lost Dogs. They toured Australia. When they came back from Australia, he had written Rockin' in the Free World and a couple of other tunes. And we got together in New York and started cutting with Poncho, Chad, Rick, Neil. It was just a 4-piece. And then we came back out to California at the ranch and worked there for a while. There was the method to producing Neil is to just keep showing up until you're done. It's really easy, actually. You just have to have everything working all the time so that the minute anybody in that collection of musicians has an idea, you try it before they talk about it. Get it right away, because that's when it's fully inspirational and not intellectual. And that's it. I mean, that's all I do. It's like having a giant catcher's mitt, but with Neil, especially, like my rule with the assistants when we start working is you hit record, then you plug in the mics and you do it in that order. Because if he sees a microphone, he starts. And what comes out first is what comes from out there. And what comes out second is what comes from in here. And what comes from in here is never as good as what's just drawn from the universe and natural.
That order of operations, the backwards order of operations of hitting record first and then plugging mic second, I think that really is an amazing example of the idea that you tried to give people in your masterclass, which was that we are here to cater to the artist and we're here to serve the artist. And that, to so many people, can go in one ear and out the other. It's like, yeah, of course, that's what we're here to do. But so many people in the studio, they think of it in a very engineer-centric way, especially if they have their own studio, and they might think about it, it's all about them. It's like, okay, you artists, wait, I have to get all the mics set up, and then I want you to get in front of this one and test this one and test that one. And all that is very engineer focused. It's the opposite of being artist focused, where being artist focused is, recording them without even knowing the recording, and just things are going at all times. And that idea of actually disappearing, and people can pay lip service to that idea. But I think this idea that you put out there of record first, mic second, makes that practical. And I think that that example has made it resonate with me more than just being a platitude about respecting artists, because that's like a meaningful way we can put that into practice. Do you have any other insights into what is a practical way you can be more artist focused in the studio instead of engineering focused in the studio?
Lose your ego. Nobody gives a shit what you think. Hit record. I think if anybody's honest, they'll find that they start a record with all the mics they thought they should need, and they finish record with the one microphone that's still working, and they use it on everything, and nobody remembers what it is. It's usually a 57,
right.
And they started with, rented 251s and Fairchilds and this and that from the Sky, and you got this and you got that. And I mean, there's a place for all of that. That's great. But you're only as good as what's in front of the microphone. And if what's in front of the microphone had to wait for you, then when they were ready, you were polishing chrome, and
Mm.
you've missed while you're there.
Don't
It's
be so
bullshit.
precious about it. It is better to have every single thing recorded on one mic that might not be the ideal mic for that source than to break up every moment of inspiration with trying to get the exact right mic for that moment. Yeah.
The minute you tell them, wait, I have to change something, you lost.
Mm.
I mean, I hate that. If something goes down or a cable goes down, when we set up for tracking, there's always extra mics.
Yeah.
Just in case. Run out there and move it. The Tom mic died. I don't care which serial number it is. Just get a mic on the Tom. He's hitting it. It's ridiculous. She's singing. Just get anything in front of her. It's I don't know. I came up with a group of engineers that were very precious about what they did. And most of what I learned was hanging out after the session with the people that were really involved in playing and listening to what they complained about. And then just never do that, and you will make a better record.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, we're about 30 minutes in right now. We still have a few more questions that would come in, but I don't want to keep you all day. Do you have time to do a lightning round on a few more questions?
Cool.
They're asking what kit to switch to. They'll set it up.
Oh, let's do Danny Fongheiser.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, with the open bass drum.
Right,
and then we'll pack it with the blanket. 1 second. Same place, same microphones. I just want to do, it's 3 toms, right? 2 racks floor. Yeah, same. But no front head on the drum, and we'll do the sandbags and packing and all that.
Cool.
Cool. All right. I'll see you. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were waiting. See you in a minute.
Good stuff. Well, it looks like you're in the middle of a session, so we're going to start letting you go.
It's okay. No, it's fine. They'll set it up now. I didn't realize they were waiting for me we're changing drum sets. So
here we are talking about how we have to be prepared for the artist, and we're keeping you from doing exactly that. All right. Last one here. Bernardo says that we can say that there is a correlation between peanut butter and jelly and audio excellence. So he has that much data so far. So okay. But it's interesting, I was thinking, no one's ever asked me, Bernardo has never asked me my favorite sandwich, and I feel kind of heartbroken that I'm not in the same league as everyone who I interview. Well, I was actually going to give the same answer as you. I don't eat sandwiches. Here's the thing. I can't remember the last time I've eaten a sandwich. Like, I don't do a lot of bread. I will have a piece of toast with egg in the morning. I'll put egg on the toast, but that's not a sandwich because you're not enclosing it. But the only time I'm tempted to have a sandwich, and I will do it, is because I'm making like a peanut butter and jelly for my daughter, and I'm like, oh, I could go to town on that thing right now. If I'm really hungry, and or if I like the crusts are left on the plate and there's jelly like and peanut butter coming out of I'm like, I could go to town on that. And that would be the thing. If I was going to eat a sandwich, it would be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it would be sunflower and jelly because she's allergic to peanut butter.
That's why Sheps does wraps, because in his mind there's less carbs.
It's either that or it's all crust. Once you have the wrap, then it's all the good part. It's all the crust that a dad would eat. Yeah, I don't know.
Sheps doesn't do anything unless it's scientific, so we're going to have to ask him.
All right. Little bit further here. Questions. A bunch of people talking about Fiona Apple here. Niles says, I'm here for Fiona Apple stories, LOL. And Rico writes in to say, I love Fiona Apple's version of Across the Universe. Don't know if you did that one or not, but hats off to you regardless. Any thoughts there on working with Fiona Apple? I think you did at least one record with her. Can you give us any sense about what working with her is like, or anything that you remember from those sessions?
Yeah, she's a genius. She was she was wonderful. Sat down at the piano, sang, you believed her. I did Across the Universe, but it was Rufus Wainwright. Yeah, Fiona is really special. I haven't seen her in years. She lives in Vermont now, I think.
Not far from me.
Yeah, she's kind of into another trip. But when I got to work with her, Andy Slater was the producer, and he was also, and what I learned from Andy about production, he was a brilliant casting director. So the people that he brought in were people that did 2 functions. They they could relate to Fiona in a very personable way that was not threatening or overbearing. It was just a supportive way. And they were also genius musicians. You know, they were just incredible. And that was the brilliance of Andy Slater, putting that whole team together. And Fiona just, you know, she was this precious girl that just showed up and kind of pulled the blanket off and sang from her heart. And then, you know, did you guys get that? How was it? She was, you know, as insecure as anybody can be in such a beautiful way, you know, as most artists are. So that's what I remember. It was a real treat.
Beautiful. With questions about working with Prince, I believe your Prince stuff was a lot of his catalog work, right? Doing stuff.
Yeah, I didn't work with Prince. Sylvia worked with Prince. Peggy McCreary worked with Prince. Susan Rogers, David Leonard.
But your stuff was, were you doing Atmos mixes of old stuff, or is this taking catalog tracks that were never released and then mixing those?
What it was they had singles that Prince had produced for other people, but he had sang guide vocals. He had sung them when he wrote the songs. And so what they asked me to do, the family asked me to do, was to remix them in the same style as the single that was released, but replace their vocal with his original vocal. So that's cool. What I did.
Yeah, and it was forget how many artists.
That's you know, like the opposite of match. You know, here's our producer's demo. I had to do what I call forensic mixing because I had to figure out what they did. And so what I did was I called Peggy McCreary and David Leonard and Susan to some extent, and I know Sylvia Massey all the time. Well, what did you guys use back then? You know, what was the delay? What was this? What was that? So that I could refabricate what their control room was to try and match the songs. It was a lot of fun.
Very cool. All right, last question here from Sergio. I think this would be the last one we get to. Sergio says, I'm interested in knowing how Niko prepares himself for a session that may require more people, like a live session that might be 24 mics or more. How do you communicate with all that staff and all of those artists? Is there any thoughts on running big sessions successfully?
Well, there's three things that come to mind. The first is don't get freaked out that it's a big session. Think of it as you're doing 24 overdubs. You're just doing them at the same time. So, you know, it's easy. And get to know your VUs or your monitoring. What will help you a lot is never change your monitor level. In other words, if you listen with the volume knob at 2 o'clock, leave it there. Don't let anybody move it. And if you listen to a record and it all sounds good, and then you're going to go build a tracking session and you bring up the drums, well, you know how loud they should hit your body. So you don't really have to check levels because if they feel right, they are right. Move on. And then you bring up the first of 3 guitars. Well, if it hurts, but it's loud enough, then it's probably too bright, but it's loud enough and it'll be fine with levels. And just put them all together. The other thing that's very important for me is try to move fast, get a level, set it, forget it, move on. Don't double check. And then try not to let everybody in the room until you're ready. Because when everybody gets in there, they're not going to, you know, if your balance is right, their headphones will be right. They're going to hear each other. They're going to forget you're there. They're going to look at each other and they're going to go. You better be in record. So you want to be recording as you're getting sounds. And that's the other beauty of digital is you don't run out of tape. So you can just hit record and forget it. Bring your sounds up. Bring your sounds up. If the singer walks in and he or she starts belting it out and half the cats are still in the lounge, but they nail a version because the drummer was there and the guitar player was there and that's it. You got it. You have that. You can go overdub the rest of it, but you'll never get that inspired vocal again. And that's your job. Your job is to just vanish, stay and record all the time, capture everything that happens, and then sort it out. But don't be afraid. You know, 24 mics is just 23 more than one, and you know how to do one, so you can do 23 more. It's easy. It just sounds huge. It's not.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, I think that that is a good place to end it for today, Niko. I'm really excited that you got to spend so much time with us, both on the masterclass. You guys check it out. That'll be linked here. And also check out Cali Audio. They help make this one free to the public by sending in our videographers and our editors and all that. So check out their studio monitors. Niko's a big fan of them. So am I, for good reason. They got stuff from the cheapest of prices all the way up to the highest of prices. Check them out.
Inexpensive with cheap.
Yeah.
And if you do speak to anybody at Cali, say hi to Charles, because he's genius. Yeah. He's a really
That's what everyone says. I deal with Nate so much at Cali, and I love Nate. And every time I speak to someone who really loves Cali, who's met those guys, they say, "Have you met Charles yet?" And I say, "No, I actually haven't met Charles." Awesome. They say, and everyone who's met Charles has had their socks knocked off by him. So I got to meet this Charles one of these days.
You go over there and sit down. If you can get him on a good day, he'll take you into a whiteboard, and you'll learn more about speakers than you ever thought you'd want to know. He's incredible. And that's why they're so great. You know, they're just designed well.
Yeah. Now, speaking of great speakers, I can actually get you some Cali audio monitors for free. Those of you watching, go check out the MixCon Mega Giveaway. You can go to mix-con.com. That's mix-con.com. We are giving away $10,000 worth of free gear in the MixCon Mega Giveaway. 3 chances to win, including Cali audio speakers and a whole bunch of plugins and headphones and other stuff. So please check that out. Also check out all the MixCon Masterclasses at mix-con.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you, Niko Bolas, for doing this.
Pleasure.
Thanks to Blues Traveler for letting us go under the hood of their track. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us. This has been Justin Colletti of SonicScoop with Niko Bolas. See you next time.
See you later, man.